Welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. I'm Grant. Today I'm unboxing a brand new game from Nuts Publishing, which is a French publisher. And frankly, they do very interesting games as well. This will be my first game of theirs that I've actually played. I did play a prototype copy of their Saigon 75. Really enjoyed that game. I know that's coming out, being fulfilled from Kickstarter hopefully soon. I think we're supposed to get a copy of that. But this is a look at FITNA, Global War in the Middle East. FITNA is an Arabic word that means schism or conflict. So, as you can imagine from the cover art, the oil wells burning here in the Middle East this is from the Gulf War. This game covers the struggle in the Middle East and involves 15 different countries, it seems. We'll go over that here in just a minute, but this is a multiplayer game. It can be played as two-player. Let's go ahead and lift the box up. 2 to 6 players, if you can see that. And you're talking 90 minutes to about 3.5 hours. Almost 4 hours, right? 2 to 6 players. So this is a very interesting game where you can play all types of different factions. Let's flip it over. I think you can play the United States. You can play Israel. You can play Russia. You can play, here we go. Let's look at those counters right there. France, Russia, Israel, the US, Sunnis, the UK, Syria, etc. And you will notice that nowhere listed on there is Al-Qaeda or ISIS. You know, those are represented only by the cards, and they pop up, and then they are quote-unquote fires that need to be stamped out. This is somewhat of a card-driven game. It uses cards to activate units with events, etc. And you can see it's played on a point-to-point movement map. I'm very interested in this. The designer is Pierre Razzo. Pierre did a game for high-flying dice games called, I think it was called like Blood and Steel, but it was basically the Iran-Iraq Wars. I'm getting the name wrong, but check it out. It's a boxed version from high-flying dice games. Looks very interesting. One that's on my to-play list. But very well designed. Let's go ahead and open the box up. A bag of baggies, always a good thing. You got a D6. So dice aren't necessarily the focus of the game. Here you've got 2 decks of cards. Let's go ahead and open one of those up. And you can see here, very hard to read, but you can read that it says events. And then the other one is assets. So let's go ahead and open up the assets cards. I wish I had some music that I could play while I was doing this. I should have pre-cut these. Alexander has a nifty way of opening these, but I'm not that great at it. But while I'm doing this, I will talk about the game. So I did an interview with the designer, posted that on the blog about 2 years ago, and I was very impressed that the game contained so much focus on so many different countries that you could have a different gaming experience almost every single time you played the game. And I'm really having trouble with these. It stinks. But I was impressed that the designer was able to capture all of those elements from all those different cultures and countries into a playable game. It was just fascinating to me as I read that. But here's those cards. Let's flip them over. And once again, these are assets. Here's kind of an op point value. Here it says the active player takes control of ISIS. So somehow you're going to get to use that. So it says pick 3 previous eliminated IS units and place them on any box. Receive twice as many OPs as the number of oil fields controlled by IS in order. So you're going to use those ISIS units on the board to vex your opponents if that's what you get. Here's a reinforcements card, and you can see there's a lot of the same card. That's the way these are. You got no-fly zone, rebellion in Hejaz, Houthi insurgency, coup in Syria, Iraq, Bonn, UN sanctions, etc. So these are these different asset cards. So typically, my name is Bond. The active player sends his best special agent to kill the local enemy commander. So these cards are going to be used by players. They're called assets. They're going to be used to move their forces around. Events are going to change the game state on the board. I'm not going to struggle opening this deck. The player gives operational command to his best general to support the current battle. 2 column shift, attack or defense on the combat resolution table. This is a game where you use CRTs, which is good. It's kind of a down-to-earth war game. I'm excited. I feel like we haven't played a good Hex Encounter war game for a while. So this is an interesting package. So you can see here it's like the map wrapped around the rule book with some player aid cards in the middle. Let's go ahead and rip that open. I probably should have spent a little bit more time in the preparation stage of this, but here's the rule book. I'm gonna be honest, rules aren't a whole lot. There's only 15, 16 pages worth of rules. A lot of that is a discussion on the cards and some strategies for the different areas. But rules are fairly text dense. There's a combat resolution table that I am sure appears on one of these cards we'll look at here in a minute. The game heavily relies on planning of what you're going to do, using your event cards well. So there's a look at that rule book, very nice looking. And then here is the scenarios or playbook. And you can see there's quite a different number of scenarios. There's 11. All scenarios have a 2-player special rule, and scenarios 2, 3, and 4 have a 4-player special rule. So it's obviously hard to get 6 players together. You can see that number 11 is the full campaign, 6 players. But you can play this game 2-player, and then there's some rules that govern how the other factions function. But you can see there's civil war in Syria, the fight against Islamic State, the Kremlin counterattacks, the collapse of the Islamic West, Iraq invades Kuwait again, the Sultan awakes, Turkish military intervention, the struggle for Kurdish independence, limited war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and there's others. So there's a look at those scenarios. We're not going to dive into each of those. Really nice books on nice paper. And here's the counters. Oh my gosh. You guys saw that, right? That's literally what happened to the counter sheet. I think that's a good thing. Alexander and I always talk about that. These counters are not going to need to be clipped. They are phenomenal. Let's go ahead and grab a couple just to show you. Very colorful, as you can see the different colors used there representing the different countries. Here's a look at a mechanized division. Very well done. Here's a kind of another Turkish unit showing a tank. Here you have an Iranian unit, and then this is I'm not sure what ESA is. I apologize, gentlemen, but so there's a look at those counters. Man, they're really nice. Here's a no-fly zone, which is an administrative counter you're going to place on the board. There you go. Really well done. This represents kind of a heavy infantry unit. It's a Sunni militia with a bazooka. So very well done counters. And as you can see, they just fell out of the sprue. In fact, I'm shaking those and they're all coming out. I'm going to have to be very careful as I clean these up to make sure I don't lose them. Before we look at the map, here's some player aid cards. You can see the CRT at the top of each one of these. These are not thick card stock, they're thin card stock, but they seem to work very well. They're big player aids. They have a lot of information on them. Here you can see this says the Saudi player. This one's the Russian player and the Iranian player. So appears to be a very good player aid that's going to help you know how to play the game. And now let's look at the best part of the game. And I'm going to tell you, this map is very cool. Very good, thick cardstock paper. I'm going to lay that out. I may have to adjust my camera. But it's a big one. And you can see it's area movement, or point-to-point movement, not area movement. You can see the different countries are clearly outlined: Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Syria, etc., Kuwait. Then you've got these different boxes. There are icons on them, if you can see. Let's go ahead and push down here to the Persian Gulf. Here you can see these oil derricks are spread out. I am sure that that equates to economic factor or gives you points to buy or build or obtain new units or assets. You've got a tension track here at the bottom of the board that I'm pointing at. Then you've got the turn track here. And then these are Iraqi force pools. And this is Iranian force pools. So it looks like your force pools are shown on the edges of the map. I guess you're going to stack your counters there to keep them or hold them as you move through the game and play. Very nice looking map though. Going to be fun to play this one, I'm going to be honest. Unfortunately, Alexander and I will not be able to get a 5 or 6 player game on this one. It's going to have to be a 2-player game, which is okay. I'd prefer to have a bigger war game and have a lot of additional players, but that's okay. Get a look at that map again. So that is FITNA, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Great looking game. Has a lot of different elements, and I'm looking very, very much forward to it, to playing some of the concepts in the Middle East. I know there's a lot to learn about this game, a lot to go through, and Alexander and I definitely will dig into this one, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll get to play this. So that's a look at FITNA. Once again, a war about war in the Middle East, tension in the Middle East, designed by Nuts Publishing and the designer Pierre Razeau. So a great looking game. I hope you enjoyed the unboxing, and we'll get some other videos for you and keep this train rolling. Thanks for watching.